Plastic Commander here, and today we got a heck of a video for you guys. If you've been subscribed for pretty much any amount of time, whether it was yesterday or even 3 years ago, you've probably seen my video where I talk about my most expensive toy Army Men tank, and also a bunch of other tanks. I'm excited to announce in this video, we're going to be doing something quite similar to that. Today, we are going to be looking at a toy Army Men set that is $1, and we're going to compare it to my most expensive set of toy Army Men, which is valued at about $400. We're also going to take a look at a bunch of different sets in between there, between the $1 and $400 value. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. When we think of toy Army Men, we typically associate them with dime store toys. That's because ever since the 1950s, when plastic became the main material of cheap toy production, toy Army Men proved to be easy and inexpensive to make, as well as desirable by children of all ages. However, as time went on, Army Men weaved their way into all sorts of different playsets, from the iconic cheapo bags to the more elaborate box sets featuring vehicles and display pieces of all shapes, sizes, and molds. Plastic toy Army Men sets come in all shapes, sizes, buckets, bags, and so forth, and especially different kinds of prices. So, in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at all of these, plus my secret most expensive toy Army Men set, so make sure you stay tuned to the end of the video. We're also going to kind of talk about why the difference in pricing between all of these sets is so different. So, without wasting any more time, let's take a look at the cheapest $1 sets of toy Army Men. Alright, to go ahead and start us off, we have two different sets of Army Men in front of us. Both of them were very common at the dollar store. This set right here was made by Greenbrier, which is a toy company that makes most of the toys for the dollar store. And this one here was made by the company Jaru, which they've been making toy Army Men forever and ever. In fact, I got this vintage bag right here by Jaru from the 1980s. And let's see, I think it retailed for literally, looks like under 70, around 70 cents. That's really cool. And yeah, it's unopened, and they're pretty much the same as those here. They're Airfix clones, and what's really funny about Airfix clones as time has gone on with Army Men is that these right here are essentially clones of clones. Like, they have been cloned to death to the point where Chinese companies are now knocking off the Airfix knockoffs. Like, yeah, see what I mean? So, but anyway, I like both of these sets, especially this one here, because I grew up with these right over here. They've been making these for years, Jaru has. They've been making them since the 90s. They were made around the time Desert Storm was going on, and there was a huge push then to create toys that were of modern military stuff. So, for example, as I've shown before, and I'll go grab them real quick, I have these and these. Yep, that's right. The military-industrial complex has its own trading card game. So, these right here were made by Topps. They make the baseball cards and whatnot, and they're pretty much just like if you open them up. These, I don't know who made these. I guess there's a thing on the back, maybe. Pacific made these. But anyway, they're pretty much just like military generals and stuff, also like vehicles like Abrams tanks and stuff like that, but they're still really cool, and you can find them for pretty cheap. Like, I got these at an antique store for $1, so if you see them, I recommend them. But anyway, jumping right in, we'll do the Greenbrier first. So just going through, we got tons of different shooting poses, and I'm not going to pay too much attention to these. I'm going to kind of fly through them because we got a lot to look at today, but yeah, I really like the amount of shooting figures that you get in this set. You get a good chunk. We got a rifleman, bazooka guy. We have this guy with an MP5, it looks like, which, how often do we see an MP5 in an Army Men set? And then we have a kneeling regular rifleman. So really cool. Good variety there. My favorite word. And then we have some figures which are obvious clones of Matchbox and Airfix, mostly Airfix, British paratroopers. So, also, I want to apologize. In that one video, I can't remember which one, but there's a couple. It was the Army Men, Party City Army Men. I was talking about the one guy throwing the grenade. I accidentally called that a grease gun. That was a Sten gun. My bad. Someone called me out in the comments. So call me out in the comments when I'm wrong. I love it. I like being called out. I like being told if I'm incorrect. But anyway, flying through them. We got this guy who's pointing, and it looks like he has a rifle, kinda, in his hand. I can't really tell. This guy who's kind of just standing guard, and he has his rifle. Really cool. We got this guy right here. Again, pretty cool. These aren't like the best figures in the world. And then we got a guy on the radio, which, one of my favorites, to be honest. But anyway, that's the Greenbrier figures, so let's move over to my Nostalgia Blast, the Jaru modern military figures. Jaru used to also package these years ago with knockoff Matchbox American soldiers. So, like, you would also get, like, Rifleman, the Machine Gunner, and a bunch of other figures with them. I remember getting them at CVS a lot of the time. Like, whenever we'd stop in after church, I'd always get a bag, and they were like $1. But you can't really find them like that. These are sold at Dollar General, and I don't know if they still sell them. I know Dollar Store actually quit selling those. But, yeah, Dollar General sold these. This is probably one of my favorite guys, by the way. I love the fact that he's surrendering. You just don't really get that many surrendering dudes. But, yeah. And again, the detail is fairly nice. When these were first being made in the 90s and early 2000s, the quality was much better. And I don't have any of those older ones just within reach right now. So just take my word for it. I'm always correct. But yeah, I really like these. I have a lot of nostalgia. We got this Rambo-looking guy. And look, his shirt is popped open. We can see his green abs. Ooh, look at there. Save him for the next Valentine's video. And then we got this guy right here. Looks like he has, like, a space gun? Like, I think that's supposed to be like a Uzi or a MAC-10 or something, but kind of looks like a space gun, right? But he's also on the radio talking to command. And then finally, we got this guy here who looks like he's waving down a helicopter, and he also looks like he has another machine gun, maybe something similar to this guy's. I don't know. But yeah, I got a lot of really fond memories of these. Now, both of these sets are slightly smaller than 132nd, just so y'all know. These are more like 150. But again, these are really decent for $1. And as recently as a few years ago, you could still get these sets for $1. In fact, if you look online right now, they're probably $1, more than likely. And if you buy them in bulk, they're probably less than $1 a pack. If we're being honest. That's if you buy in bulk from the distributor. But if I had to compare these two, honestly, the Greenbrier ones I like more. Believe it or not, despite my nostalgia with those, I like the fact that you get an MP5 guy, you get a bazooka dude, you get a rifleman, and like I said, over here, you really don't get anyone who's firing, which is super disappointing. Like, the closest you get is this guy, but he's looking forward. If his head was turned, I'd probably give them more points. But anyway, Greenbrier versus Jaru. I'm going to have to go with Greenbrier. So you probably have both of these, though. But anyway, let's move on to a set that's worth $25. So what does $25 get you in the world of Toy Army Men? Well, I'll answer that question for y'all. Toy Soldiers of San Diego, pretty much all of their sets that are 16 figures are around $25. Now, you might be thinking, Clay, why have you stopped taking your medication? And I'll answer that. It's because I ran out, and I'm really scared. I don't like going to the doctor. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm probably just going to buy some more Army Men. And jumping right in, we'll talk about why these are $25. It is because the detail on these is phenomenal. So, Toy Soldiers of San Diego, otherwise known as Mick Sean's Closet, that is the combination of the children's names of the lovely couple who has owned that company since the 1980s. They have been making figures of World War II, Civil War, and Vietnam forever and ever. I have reviewed many of their sets on this channel, and of course, I'm going to have a link to Mick Closet if you want to pick these up. But anyway, this is probably one of my favorite sets by them, and this is the Vietnam U.S. Marines. And first up, we got this guy with the pistol and holding his M16. It looks like he's running and firing. Really, really cool. He's kind of slanted over, so he's a little wobbly, although it looks like he's standing up fine now. Never mind. Moving right along, this is probably my favorite figure in this set. And again, look at the detail on here. I always gush over the detail, especially on like the face too. You can see like their eyes and mouth and nose really clearly. And this guy has a blooper China Lake grenade launcher. Really, really cool. It even has the sight, so just really cool. We don't get a lot of grenade launcher guys in Army-Men sets, come to think of it, especially Vietnam-era sets that have a China Lake. Then over here, we have this gentleman who has an M60 machine gun, the belt. Look how that comes over his arm. That is just so freaking cool. And that's just such a nice attention to detail. And he has a couple of bandoliers of M60 ammo slung around his back. He also has his pistol, his holster. And again, look at that face. That just looks so good. So one of my only gripes with this set is you get these three figures, and they all kind of look the same, right? But they're all different. I really wish maybe they changed it up a little bit. So you get this guy here who looks like he's firing from the hip, which that's a really cool pose. I think these are all three cool poses. I just kind of wish maybe they came up with a couple other designs and kept one of them, but still, regardless. This guy's firing from the hip, and again, detail looks great, just like the others. We can see his suspenders over his shirt and all of his pouches and stuff. That's one of the reasons why I love these so much. This guy is a little different. He's kind of walking forward. He has his M7 bayonet slung out, and I know this is an M7 because I'm working on a novel right now that partly takes place in the Vietnam War. So I've been Googling. I've been doing the Googles. But anyway, you can see his receiver. You can see the lines on his magazine really good. And you can even see right up here, it looks like he has a pack of cigarettes on his helmet, which is just such a nice attention to detail. Moving along, then you get this guy, which really, these two are just hyper similar. Yeah, so it looks like he's just wearing a combat vest. He doesn't look like he has a shirt, which that's cool. You can see his muscles and stuff. But again, I kind of wish they dropped one of these and just did a different kind of figure, personally. But anyway, moving along, we have this guy firing his M16 while prone. And then finally, we got a guy standing firing his M16. It looks like he also doesn't have a shirt. It's quite hot in Vietnam, which that's why they're not wearing shirts. But yeah, and then of course the bases too. You can see there. You can see the ground, which is really cool. If you were to paint these, which these are phenomenal for painting, you could definitely do a lot of cool stuff with that texture. On top of that, they even give you some extra M16 rifles. And I think they give you a few extra weapons, like a bazooka, maybe, or some grenade launchers. I can't remember off the top of my head, nor do I remember where I put them. I think they're in my spare parts drawer over there. But despite that, just the figures, you get 16, you get 2 of each of these. And for $25 with the detail that you get, I think that's a really good deal. Not to mention the price on them hasn't really gone up at all, which is also really, really cool. So most definitely, if you don't have these figures and you're a fan of Vietnam and Toy Soldiers of San Diego, definitely go pick them up. Like, I highly recommend them, and get their NVA troops. I'm going to do a separate review on the NVA troops, and I might rope these in too, just in case someone wants to watch my opinion on these without, you know, watching this video. So keep your eye open for that in the future. Next set I actually don't have complete, but still thought I would mention it since it's a good bridge between the last set and the next set, and that's the Timmy Bucket of Soldiers that is made by BMC. This set retails currently for around $50 and is jam-packed with troops, tanks, jets, and more. honestly, if you want to get a good sample of everything the Vietnam era Timmy had to offer, this bucket is a great way to do that. The only reason I don't have it is because I have so many Timmy figures and tanks that I'd rather use my money on something else. Now, I do have a few vintage buckets of Timmy toy soldiers. Honestly, the ones I've got have been from eBay lots where it's a bucket and a bunch of random stuff. That's why I didn't really feel the need to present those. But I did want to show off this one, which is different from the one that Timmy Toys sells, because this one is just figures. And this bucket right here was produced in the early 90s, late 80s by Timmy. And this is the bucket that the Timmy bucket, or not the Timmy, the Toy Story bucket of soldiers is based on. You can tell by the color of green, and I'm not going to look too much into these. I just want to show off the bucket itself. And that is because I want to do a video on the Toy Story Army Men and what inspired them, so I'm saving it for that. But for $50, which I paid about $50 for this, I think that's pretty fair, especially this being vintage. This is a nice collector's piece. 200 soldiers, and I think these retailed back in the 90s for like maybe $5 or $10, which wish we still had those prices, right? So our next set retails for roughly between $100 to $130, and that is the Alamo playset by Americana Toys. So Americana Toys is one of those companies you probably have bought figures from, but the reason no one talks about them is because they're actually clones of BMC Toys. So most of their stuff was sold at Hobby Lobby for years and years and years, and I had a bunch of their figures growing up, and it's quite a shame that I had those other than BMC Toys, but still, this playset's really, really cool. Now, I do have some authentic Alamo BMC figures right here, and the quality of these is quite better than the quality of these figures, but regardless of that, I don't think BMC Toys ever did an Alamo playset like this. So if I'm wrong, let me know, send me a link to it, but I just could not for the life of me find it. But despite that, let's look at what we get in here. By the way, this set was actually sent to me by a viewer named Cotter, who reached out to me right before the end of last year over my email, who offered me a good chunk of his old Toy Army Men collection. So Cotter, if you're watching this, thank you so much. This video could not have been done without you. I've seen this set go for between $100 and $130, but for simplicity, let's just say $100. This set is jam-packed with cannons, palisade fortifications, wagons, even smaller stuff like stools and crates. You also, of course, get the Alamo itself, which, as a Texan myself, I am legally obligated not to forget. The Alamo is one consistent wall piece, and I think it does its job rather well. You also, of course, get all the soldiers for the Mexican Army and the Texan Defenders. I'm not going to go too in-depth because I want to give this a proper review one day, so I'm just going to leave that up to the footage that you're seeing now. Finally, the moment you've all been waiting for.
Assembly lines of the Lewis Marks toy.
Marks. As a lot of you know, Marks is perhaps my favorite classic toy soldier company, if not favorite toy company in general. They created beautiful, gorgeous sculpts throughout the 60s and 70s that still hold up amazingly to this day. The difference between Marks and, say, a company like Lido or Ideal was that Marks seemed to make their playsets like they were creating works of art. That's why in 2023 I bought this right here, a original 1967 Marks Battlegrounds playset. So I reviewed this set about a year and a half ago for a Christmas special, but I haven't really been happy with that video. I kind of just hobbled it together because I wanted something out for the holiday. At that time, I was moving out of my previous apartment, so I had a lot going on. It just was really difficult to get a decent video out, so I really don't feel like I did Battlegrounds the justice that it deserved. This playset is without a doubt the crown jewel of my collection, and that's not just because it ran me about $400 altogether between shipping and just purchasing the thing, but let's take a look at it. Was it worth the price for this classic piece of toy history? Let's find out. For one, Marks loaded you down with far more accessories than you could even dream of. I'm not talking about artillery like the howitzer or the German flak cannon or even the small mortar setup. Marks gave you things such as a machine gun that fires bullets and mines that you can lay out your own minefield. I have none of these smaller pieces, and replacement parts from the era can run you a pretty penny. They also even gave you different shells for the artillery pieces. This set also included tons of decayed buildings, sandbags, and even this bunker piece. Some of these are reproduced by BMC Toys, so if you wanted to, you could recreate a lot of what you see here without spending an arm and a leg like I did. You also get what is probably the best barbed wire fencing I've ever seen in an Armyman set. It's three-dimensional, unlike a lot of Armyman sets that have flat wire, which this set also includes, and they also fit into each other, so you can connect them easier. You also get two flags for each side, along with this little flag piece, which might be a flag of surrender. I know some of you might be upset over the German flag being a post-war flag, but honestly I get it, for it is a little distasteful to put a swastika in a children's playset, even in the 1960s. One of the sad things about this set is, though, that you don't get any German vehicles. I think the idea is that the Germans are posted up in their bunker, in the ruined buildings, and the Americans are encroaching on their position. That being said, Marks did make some German takes during their time, but between you and me, they didn't look the best. At least, not nearly as good as the American takes seen here. I believe this is a version of the Sherman take, but I couldn't tell you which one. In fact, I'm probably wrong about it being a Sherman, too. You also get a smaller artillery piece. This one in particular seemed to be copied by Chinese companies a ton in the 80s up to the early 2000s. You get two boats, and you also get this little Jeep, which seems a little too small. Marks wasn't really well known for their vehicles. No, they were known for their figures. The Marks Rogues Gallery is perhaps one of the best crafted sets of toy Armymen of all time. All of them are a glorious 1/32 scale, and all of them are unique and special. Starting with the Germans, since there's not nearly as many of them, you get some marching troops with various weapons, riflemen, a soldier with an MP40, a spotter, a dead soldier, and this sick-looking officer. Out of all of these, my favorites are the officer and the soldier with the MG42 around the back of his neck. Like I said, these figures definitely came to life in the plastic they're molded out of. The love and care, however, definitely went into the American soldiers. Almost every single figure here is different from the last. You get several soldiers firing weapons, of course, some crawlers, various marchers, a radio operator, this guy here who is unironically one of my favorite Army men of all time, and if I got an Army man tattoo, it would be him, some seated figures that fit in the half-track I was saving to mention until now, flamethrower, which, to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of, a minesweeper, this guy getting shot who looks amazing. This is what I mean when I say these figures come to life. You also get some figures in melee positions, and my favorite is this guy here with a knife, someone to man your mortar, and a bazooka man. You also get some figures which work in tandem for scenes, like this guy carrying his wounded buddy, and these two soldiers and their stretcher carrying a casualty off the battlefield. Marks also threw in tons of weapons for your soldiers, or just to add detail to your scene. These are the only few that I have left, for the set came with way more, but those have been lost to time. I love Marks. They were the king of American toys for a very good reason, and that was because they were just extremely good at what they did. I mean, this set is a work of art. There's so many different moving pieces, so many different figures, and honestly, it's such a shame that we don't get sets like this anymore. Yeah, there's plenty of great sets out there now, but none of them can match the artistry that you see here from Mark's Battlegrounds. Like I said, I paid about $400 for everything you see here, and honestly, that's fair. I think if you find anything like this for less, that's a great deal. I mean, these figures worth about $1 a piece, depending, give or take. The one guy who's getting shot, I've seen go for upwards of $10. Bunker pieces and pieces of like trees and stuff, all of those go for like, I caught you. Trees and stuff go for like, gosh, I've seen just lots of these accessories go for $50 to $100 alone. So it's like, if you can get it all together with the box, which the box is also worth like $100, jump on it. It also makes me really glad that BMC does reproduce a lot of the pieces you see here. They make this little piece here, as well as the bunker, and also some of the parts. I really wish BMC would go ahead and do the Germans, as well as some of the Americans they haven't done yet. I cannot wait for that day, and I'm going to buy so many of them when they do. I don't know if it's because Kellogg is still clinging on to the rights, because Kellogg's bought Marks in the 1980s, but either way. It's really interesting telling people that I collect toy army men, because typically a lot of them assume that it's a cheap hobby. And for the most part, it is. I can get a lot of these pieces for under $30 and $20. In fact, a lot of the stuff on my shelves, not really worth that much. But you always have to have a crown jewel that you can't find anywhere else. I'm the Plastic Commander. Thank you for watching.
Mission accomplished. Well done, man. Pack it up. We're going home.